welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host, and tonight, it's Friday Night Fights. That's right, Friday Night Fights. Showtime and BELLATOR MMA will kick off their new arrangement together with a monster. That's right, folks, a monster card under BELLATOR MMA 255 Pitbull versus Sanchez. And it's going to, of course, be on Showtime. But here's the cool part. It's going to be free. That's right, free on multiple platforms not owned by Showtime or Showtime Networks. They're sharing this, folks. They're sharing the opportunity for MMA fans around the country and people who are curious but want to check out MMA to watch it for free. And as I said, listed below in the show box will be all the places you can see it other than Showtime. And it's very unique because, taking a product of this caliber, an event, as I say, that's got buzz all over the country, and the MMA world is just totally freaking out about this, which is cool. And you're getting it for free, and you're getting it on multiple platforms. I mean, folks, you can't lose with that. So, who came up with this? Well, one of the guys who came up with this just happens to be our guest for today, and he happens to be Stephen Espinoza. Stephen is the president of sports and event programming for Showtime Networks. And Stephen, I got to say, my friend, if you're going to make a splash and show people that Showtime is the gold standard for MMA, boxing, and pretty much combat sports here in the United States, this, my friend, is one that is coming out of the box off the hook good.
We did, and it's funny. You caught me fresh off of some production meetings and the weigh-in, and starting to soak up some of the atmosphere for the Friday evening event, and in talking to some of the guys, notably Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson, two names that longtime MMA fans will recognize, as a current ref and a former fighter, both of whom are in the BELLATOR on-air announce team. And Josh made a really interesting comment. He said, "Look, what excites him about this opportunity now is that the BELLATOR roster is stronger now than Strikeforce was at the time that Showtime started with Strikeforce."
Wow.
And the reason that's meaningful, for people who weren't familiar for it is, we consider our time with Strikeforce very, very successful. And really, objectively, you can look at the end of Strikeforce when UFC acquired them and absorbed them, and saw that the talent that was built on Showtime for Strikeforce really fueled the UFC for about a decade afterwards.
Right.
And provided many, many of their champions. And for Josh Thompson to say, that the BELLATOR current talent pool is stronger than that Strikeforce pool back then is saying something, particularly because Josh was in that talent pool back when we were there was Strikeforce. So there is we have caught the company, and we've joined forces at a great time, really, when BELLATOR has peaked in terms of the value and the depth of their talent.
You're doing something, if I can take a little bit away from the fight aspect of the actual fighters for a moment. You're doing something tomorrow, because we're recording this on Thursday. We're doing something tomorrow that is pretty almost unprecedented in streaming, and that's you're doing something on Showtime's platform that you're actually giving to platforms that are not part of the Showtime family. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it is something that happens very, very rarely. And typically, when it does happen, it's not with something as valuable as this fight card.
Right.
Um, but but in putting this on Showtime, as well as simultaneously on everything from YouTube to the Bellator app to the Showtime website to a variety of different cable and satellite and streaming providers, all without a Showtime subscription,
Mm-hmm.
it really reflects a confidence in the product. As much as all of us can talk about the product,
Mm-hmm.
we think the best salesperson for it is really the product itself.
Right.
We're really confident that people see the quality of the presentation and the way we present the sport and the caliber of the athletes that are participating. That's going to be the best calling card. And
Mm-hmm.
if people tune in, we are confident they're going to be interested and they're going to want to see more. So it's a calculated decision to put our best foot forward on this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll put in the show box below and in the column where people can watch it tomorrow.
I
And
appreciate that.
But if I can make a recommendation to my listeners
Please.
out there, you guys know that I try to look out for you. I would go ahead and do the 30-day free trial of Showtime. And the reason I would do that is because while this one is going to be free and open to the multiple platforms, you still, Stephen, have some pretty good fights coming up. And, over the next month, people get an opportunity to see those fights. But at the same time, they're going to get an opportunity to kick the tires on some phenomenal sports that you have in there that are not MMA touch points.
Yeah, we've got just on the MMA side, we've got 4 more cards coming in the next, I think 6, possibly 7 weekends.
Mm-hmm.
We've got at least 2 more and possibly 3 more boxing cards during that same period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And next weekend, the weekend of the 9th and 10th,
Uh-huh.
it's basically a combat sports takeover of Showtime. Saturday night, we've got a live MMA card, and Friday night, we've got a live MMA card, and Saturday night, a live boxing card. And, that's a commitment to combat sports and a commitment to sort of premium presentation of combat sports that I think, is really unprecedented among the streaming space or even in premium television.
Well, the other aspect that you guys have as an advantage over, say, the HBOs, the Stars, and some of the other premium services is that
Mm-hmm.
you offer the content live as well as, obviously on demand.
Great point. That's a great point. Apologies for cutting off, but it's a really great point. And it was a strategic decision that was made well before we launched in streaming back in 2015 to carry not just the VOD content, but the live Showtime feed. And people would probably say, and there are other networks at the time that made the opposite decision. What do you need the live feed for if everything's there on demand? Well, the reason you need the live feed is there are some things like a live boxing event or live MMA event
Mm-hmm.
that that really they have the urgency of a live event, and so there's again a commitment to the live events and specifically combat sports, so much so that the app was built and the streaming experience was built to accommodate live delivery through the app, so you can enjoy sports and other things which have an urgency to them.
Well, to your point, I've been doing this is my 247th stream on podcast, and throughout the time, it's funny. Obviously the prime time is anytime you want to concept, which is video streaming and streaming on demand, is a great concept, but there's still things, appointment television, that are things that streamers want. and the ability to gain access to a live stream of an event is just as important to streamers as it is to those who are watching on traditional cable or television.
Right, and there's a lot of streaming services that have made different decisions, either deprioritizing the live events or just not having the capability altogether.
Right.
And what you've seen is, as the streaming market evolved, they've backtracked and said, well, how can we retrofit a lot of our systems? There's a couple of huge examples of that now, which I'm sure you can name. It is. Look, VOD is great, and we all love being able to binge and watch whatever we want whenever we want it. But for the sports fan, there's nothing quite like watching it live, especially when social media. You log on to social media and it's going to be ruined, immediately if you haven't watched it live.
Well, one of the things we've been doing is that I've been doing with some groups of people is we now that Zoom is such a big thing, we've been doing watch parties because you can't get together with your friends. So you sit down at the old computer, share a screen, watch an event together, and you can have a lot of fun with it. And so that's why, as I'm saying, there's so much appointment television that still is important, and it's good that Showtime has, been very strong at leading the way in that.
Yeah, there was, fortunate to be at a company that sort of, has some really smart strategic thinkers.
Yeah.
And saw the need for the live feed. It is a definite difference maker for our service.
Well, your buddies over at Paramount Plus, Sean and the gang over there have done a nice job of with March Madness and keeping people up to date on what's going on there as well. So
oh yeah,
it's all in the family.
And if you're a soccer fan, you're in heaven with Paramount Plus lately. I mean, they're just going to have hours and hours upon hours of soccer content.
Let's talk a little bit about your commitment to the documentary side of it. And you guys have done and invested some time and effort in some really good, solid documentaries on the sports side as well. As long as, as well as the live stuff, you've got, and the boxing and the MMA, you've got a little bit of something for everybody in the documentary side.
You're right. We've developed, I would say, two main areas, although not everything we produce on the sports side fits these areas. But one, we've had the in-depth profile where we've profiled everyone from Lawrence Taylor, the New York Giant, Hall of Famer, to Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson, two NBA Hall of Famers. And then we've also done, your more traditional, doc and multi-episode docs in particular. We did with LeBron, Shut Up and Dribble, which really looked at the intersection of politics. And then, our most recent one that we're really proud of is Outcry, which is, one of those addictive crime docs, in this case. And to your point about viewing habits, Outcry was a great example for us. It is one of our most streamed documentaries in recent history. Perhaps at the top, very close, certainly the top at sports. But it also did very well on the linear service. So we found that there were two distinct groups of people who enjoyed the experience of watching it once a week for 5 weeks. And then there's, everybody else who said, look, I saw the first episode, I'm hooked. I want to binge 5 straight hours and get that. And I think it is important to not just, be broad in the subject matter, but be broad in the way you're delivering it.
Well, yeah, because the appetites of consumers via streaming is all over the board. And it's one where, but it's consistent. And, the trend is in that area and it keeps growing. And so, it's shameless plug time on the show. I give that to everybody. And I say it. You didn't say it. I say it. Here's the part where you can tell me what you hope people take away from this weekend on Showtime. But beyond that, you've got the 30-day trial, which I'm going to put in the box below so people understand it. But you run the show there when it comes to sports, Stephen. You've got a tremendous group of people over there with, of course, the resources of Showtime and CBS. Where are you going, and where are you going to take us, in the next few months and even into the summer, into the fall, that you want people to say, hey, look, Showtime is someplace you need to be?
Well, I think what we pride ourselves on is doing sports and sports adjacent content that attracts and is appealing to the entire spectrum. People who are hardcore sports fans, all the way to people who have no interest whatsoever in sports. Shut Up and Dribble, for example, if you are a LeBron James fan or an NBA fan, it was an interesting 3-episode documentary that sort of looked at some of the key moments where politics and the NBA have collided. If you have no interest in the NBA, it still is a fascinating discussion and analysis of how sport and politics and society interact and how they reflect upon each other, in ways that we've seen very directly from, LeBron James and former President Trump getting in a Twitter dispute back and forth, as well as Steph Curry. So I think, if you've always been curious about MMA, but never really, thought it was sort of intimidating because where do you start?
Right.
I hear that sometimes with boxing and MMA. There's no season, like there's no first weekend like there is in the NFL. Where do you pick up? Bellator MMA is, its calling card is its tournaments. So it's a great access point. Our second weekend, April 9th, we're launching an 8-man light heavyweight tournament. So you start single elimination tournament, just like the NCAA tournament. And we've got the top 8 guys in the light heavyweight division. It's one of the most exciting and talent-rich divisions. And, after several events, we're going to find out who the best guy is. And so it's a great way if you're interested in getting into MMA and watching it. You don't have to know everything about it. You follow these 8 guys, in this one division. It's a great access point for new fans. And at the same time, we've got such expert commentators that are able to learn something, even if you're a longtime fan of the sport as well.
And not to forget the fact that, of course, Showtime is the gold standard for boxing.
That's right. I mean, we're going on 35 years.
Give or take.
In the boxing space. Yeah.
I did a couple of fights myself, so I can tell you it's been a while.
Yeah, that's right. We were reminded just within the last few weeks, with the passing of Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler was in the first boxing event ever telecast by Showtime back in March of 1986, almost exactly 35 years to the day almost on which he passed. So there's a long history, a lot of passionate people, and if there's one thing we know at Showtime Sports, it's combat sports, whether it's boxing or MMA.
Special thanks to our special guest, Stephen Espinoza, the president of Sports and Event Programming for Showtime Networks. We thank Stephen for being here and talking about Bellator 255, which is airing tonight on Showtime, but also about the phenomenal package of MMA fights and boxing that's coming down the road for Showtime, as well as the documentary. So by all means, check out all the information in the show box below and take that 30-day trial of Showtime. It's free, and I think you're going to be surprised at all the fun stuff you find, not just in the sports side, but obviously in the entertainment side. We'll be back with more of Stream On right after this from BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
At BMW, we know leaving the road wasn't easy, but anticipating our return taught us to appreciate every drive. The exhilaration of the ultimate adventure. Moments spent with your favorite co-pilots. And the freedom to explore just because. Our time to rejoin the road is finally here.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now, if you're not one of the over 60,000 and growing group of people that are part of our little community here worldwide, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we make it simple. It's free. You can find us at the Apple Podcast Store. Also over at Google Play. You can find us at Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube, just to name a few. Now, if you have an assistant device like, say, Google or Alexa or Siri, all you have to do is ask them, play the latest edition of Stream On with Jim Williams, and guess what? They'll do it for you. Okay? Now, after all that, if you still can't find us, pull out the old Google machine, type in Stream On with Jim Williams, hit the favorite button or the subscribe button each week. You're getting a brand new edition of the podcast sent directly to your phone, your tablet, or to both, okay? So please go out there and do that for us today, all right? Okay, cool, thanks. So what are we going to binge this holiday weekend? Well, let's start with kind of a campy one, but it's got potential. We'll give it that. HBO Max has Godzilla vs. King Kong. Now, as a kid growing up, myself and I'm sure many of you watched the old Japanese versions of King Kong versus Godzilla. And again, these were shot in the early 50s, so it was kind of campy, but it was fun. And it was very entertaining. Highly recommend you at least give a shot to Godzilla vs. King Kong. I know the production values are going to be better because they couldn't be worse. But King Kong vs. Godzilla is always a classic, so that's HBO Max. That's this weekend. Could be a fun thing for the entire family. Godzilla vs. King Kong. Okay. Now, you guys on social media have blown me up with tweets and with Instagram DMs about one of your favorite news shows, and that's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's on Disney Plus. It's actually quite good. I've seen the first 2 episodes and looking forward to episode 3 dropping this week. That is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. Over on Acorn, we have a couple of international programs which have done quite well, and a couple that we really enjoy. And we get to see season 4 of the mystery show Brokenwood. It's a New Zealand-produced program. It's very entertaining, and highly recommend that. That's on Acorn TV. Just dropped a new series this week. Same thing, season 14 for our buddies over at Murdoch Mysteries, which is a Canadian-produced program. Also, highly recommend. Now, on Netflix, they have a new series which I really got hooked on, and it was one that you guys brought to my attention. It's called The Irregulars, and it's well worth a look. It's a period piece that gives the viewers a different side of Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so time for sports. That's right. This weekend, over on Paramount Plus, you can catch all the action of the Final Four on Saturday with our buddy Jim Nance and the whole gang over there. They will be ready to fill you in on what's going on as March Madness comes to a close this weekend. And then, of course, the National Championship game, also on Paramount Plus, comes up on Monday. All right, so check that out. It's the first week of Major League Baseball's new season, and couldn't be happier, I can tell you myself. Well, our buddies over at BAM, of course, and that is Baseball Advanced Media, and MLB TV they're rolling out their subscription. And if you are a baseball fan and you want to see all of the teams play whenever you want to see them, then you definitely should invest in MLB.TV. You can check it out, give it a trial, and see if you like it. And if not, if you do, I'm a big fan. I'm an investor in it. I buy it. And you may want to try too. So if you're a baseball fan, check it out. They're giving a free trial. It's worth a shot. Okay? So plenty of things happening in the sports world. Of course, we talked about Bellator 255 on Showtime. So all of that information, as I said, on Bellator 255 is in our show box below. As for the rest of the stuff, guys, again, give it a look, HBO Max, Godzilla vs. King Kong, Disney Plus, The Falcon in the Winter, Acorn, Broken Wood, and Murdoch Mysteries. And then, of course, as I said before, Paramount Plus for all your action on March Madness as it comes to a close on Monday night, the Final Four on Saturday. All right? Okay, for the entire team here at Stream On, I'm Jim Williams saying have a safe and enjoyable holiday weekend. Hey, by the way, don't eat too much Easter candy. See you next week, folks.